Hi, good afternoon. I would like to call to order the April 6, 2022 Citizen Advisory Committee meeting. At this time, staff, please call the roll so we can establish a quorum.
So at this time, I am only asking those CAC members attending in person to respond by saying here when I call your name. And I just want to remind you to hit the button on the base. When it's red on top, it means you're on. And if you can just pull it closer to you so we can pick you up on the recording. Ryan Rossi,
Here.
Michael Fitzpatrick,
Here.
James Garvin,
Here.
Mark Bruner,
Here.
Ramona Bean,
Here.
Paula Ryan, James Bonfiglio,
Here.
Richard Vasilati,
Here.
Mark Forrest, Vijay Mishra,
Here.
Francisco Gill, Myra Newman,
Here.
Terry Brown, Greg Fagan,
Here.
Jim Knight. The cities of Belglade, Green Acres, Lake Worth Beach, Riviera Beach, Jupiter, and the Port will be marked as absent throughout the meetings because they have vacancies. Albert Richwagon will be absent. Wen Dang.
Here.
We have a quorum in person, Madam Chair.
Perfect. Are there any modifications to the agenda?
Yes, Madam Chair. I do have that Terry Brown asked to participate remotely. At this time, he hasn't joined the meeting. But he said due to his limited physical mobility and the site's lack of parking for disabled individuals, he's requesting to participate remotely.
Thank you. I'm guessing if he's not joined, are there any CAC members that have any objection allowing Terry Brown to join remotely when he does join? Seeing none?
And I'll note for the record when he does join the meeting so that it's in the minutes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Are there any changes to the meeting minutes? Okay, if not, can I have a motion to adopt the minutes as presented?
Motion to approve. Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All those opposed, nay. Okay, the motion carries. We're moving on to item 1D, which is the general public comments. Instruction on how to provide public comments are included in the agenda. At this time, are there any general public comments received?
No, Madam Chair. And for the record, I did want to note that Francisco Paco Gill joined us in person.
Okay, thank you. So seeing no public comments, are there any member comments at this time?
Madam Chair.
Okay. We can, if it's okay, we can start with, guess who has their card up first? Sorry. Okay, James. James.
Hi, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I wanted to bring to the committee's attention an incident that happened here in Palm Beach County. A traffic accident was reported in the Palm Beach Post. I printed one of the articles, only made 15 copies. I'm not sure everybody's got a copy. If you don't, maybe you can share with your neighbor. But article talked about 2 deaths that resulted in a school bus stop along Crestwood Boulevard, just north of Southern Boulevard. And two school children died. A couple were injured, went to the hospital, and were subsequently discharged. I read through the article, and what concerned me, if you look to the second page of the article, the second full paragraph down, the article cites to the Palm Beach County traffic engineers who were cited from February of last year. There have been 8 crashes at this area essentially in the past year. Now, one accident is an accident. One incident is an accident. Two accidents are coincidence. 3 is a pattern. I mean, we've got 8 in a year. So I think that's significantly more than a pattern. And it shows to me that there's a significant traffic problem in that area. And it just seems to me that this is right in our wheelhouse of something that we should not close our eyes to and actively investigate and see what the problem is and see what we can do to alleviate the problem. Because when two skilled school children are killed as a result of a traffic accident, it's just a tragedy, travesty, and something needs to be done. And I'd like at least to tell staff to work with Palm Beach County and the engineers. And I think the commissioner there is Melissa McKinley, and Melissa McKinley and her staff, to see if we can figure out what the problem is and how we can address that problem. So that's my comment for today.
Yeah, thank you so much, James. Thank you. I agree that this is a dangerous pattern. Having experienced that particular roadway, I know that it is 4-lane divided. It is an induced speed type of roadway, especially north of Southern Boulevard. I think the next steps, and from my personal experience, is that even though it's reactive, the next step is really for the county to conduct what we call an RSA, a road safety audit. And this is really a traffic safety report that engage all stakeholders, not only with the TPA, the county, the village of Royal Palm Beach. This is within their zone, but also other technical stakeholders to identify what are some short-term mitigations that could we can potentially impose immediately. I do think that maybe there are some level of enforcement that could happen, but from our realm of what we do as an advisory committee, I do think that the next step for this committee to do is to coordinate with the TPA staff so that we could program an RSA with Palm Beach County. Is that something that we could make?
Yeah, I can. So I'm just making some notes. I'll follow up with the Palm Beach County Engineering Department and reference the location and the article and find out what next steps they're looking into. And then I can request a road safety audit and see what their protocol is in terms of they probably have some set steps on what triggers doing road safety audits, looking at warrants and mitigation measures. So I'll just follow up with them and see what they come back with, and then I'll share it with the group.
The other thing is, if it's possible, when you do coordinate with them, if we could get some preliminary speed and crash data for that section.
Yeah. So, and then, one of the things that come before you on quarterly or bi-monthly basis is our crash safety reports that have serious and fatal injuries on a quarterly basis. So we get all that information, we map it, and we provide some level of detail for all of that. And these types of fatalities and serious injuries will be reported. And so you'll see it in the next coming months. That'll be on a report. And that goes to the governing board and they see it. And I think they really pay attention to their respective area to say, these are all of the incidences that are happening in my area, and and there's enough information on there to really see a schematic of how the accident occurred, or at least the layout, the diagram of where it happened with some limited details. But you'll see these particular incidences pop up again in a couple months on a report, but by then we'll probably have some more information from the county.
And for James, for your, just because I have experience doing road safety audit, there will be mitigation strategies coming out of this report. It will be whether if it's signage or some kind of warrants that will curb and just driver behavior in general. I believe that the section north of this incident, north of the section, received grant dollars from the TPA about 8-9 years ago for a construction project. So it, if it evolves into a capital project, I think this board could essentially support that there is, funding available for safety measures, especially in this section.
Is there some way we can put this on our agenda on a periodic basis every month, just to follow up? And find out what the county is doing about this? And as a second point, it's a school bus, so it tells me that deals with the school bus drivers and the school bus routes. And maybe it's something we can work with on the Palm Beach County School Board to figure out, what happened with respect to the school bus and dropping the kids off that may have contributed to the accident, and what we can do working with Palm Beach County School Board in trying to figure out a better way to address that issue for them at that pickup point.
Yeah, I think
So I
that
guess
was in the
a couple of
article.
things. I'm sorry.
I think it was in the article. They're going to move that bus stop.
Well, they did move the bus stop, yes. So, but I'm not sure that fixes the problem.
Sure.
That's the issue. And, it just tells me that, two kids died. We got to do something about it, and it's in our wheelhouse. And I'd like to at least make sure we're keeping track of this. I'm sure our staff is going to stay on it, but who knows what Palm Beach County staff and school board staff are going to be doing about this. So if we could keep it some sort of recurring thing, maybe a resolution, send over to them that says, euphemistically, we got an eye on you, please keep on this subject. For the next meeting, the staff can come up with some sort of resolution that we can come up with, expressing our sorrow for the families, and ask the county to keep on its toes with respect to diligently determining the cause and mitigating it.
Sure. I think the right now, and thank you again for bringing this to our attention. I think right now, what we're asking for staff is to begin coordination with Palm Beach County
Okay.
Traffic Engineering, and I think that's the most important key. Obviously, it will take time for funding to be in place for them to even initiate some kind of study and a deeper dive. So I think what's realistic is by next meeting, if we can have a report back from staff on the level coordinations that they've made.
Very good. Yeah, I would like to keep this on our radar on a continuing basis. Maybe not every meeting, because I understand wheels of government work slowly. But I'd like to keep a pulse, a track of this thing.
Great, thank you.
And thank you, everybody, for the time.
All right,
Madam Chair, if I can
yes.
just note two items. So Paula Ryan did join us in person during discussion. I just didn't want to interrupt. And the same with Terry Brown. He did join us virtually. And Terry, just for your note, they did approve your virtual attendance.
Thank you.
Okay, I have VJ, then Michael, then Richard, then Myron, if that's okay, we go in that order. So VJ.
It's a housekeeping question. So when we ask questions to the presenter and they say they will come back to us, how do we follow up on that one? Like, because I remembered I had a couple of questions that I had asked the representative from the Turnpike when they presented on the Turnpike widening. So how do we do that? Like, do we get in touch with you guys or the presenter itself?
Yeah, it falls to me. That would be my responsibility, I believe, to take down your question to the presenter, get a follow-up from the presenter, which I may have the answers for you.
Okay,
Not
I'll
right
just
away,
check with
but I
you.
think, or I'll follow up with you to make sure I know what the questions are, but I feel like I got something back from the Turnpike. Maybe I just failed to send it on to you in terms of the question. But then when you get those kind of questions, when you ask those kind of questions, I'll make sure that there is some type of follow-up. In the event that they didn't fully answer the question and they require some kind of follow-up to get back to you. Sometimes they're able to. Sometimes I'm not sure if the answer is fully answered or sufficient enough. I
I
might have to
haven't seen
qualify
anything
some.
yet, so I was just checking.
Yeah, so I'll follow up with you to clarify the questions, maybe after the meeting, or via email to see, and then get something from the Turnpike, because they'll definitely get back to us.
Thank you.
Sure.
Oh,
So we'll just make note that by next meeting, we'll have a follow-up from VJ's question in reference to the Turnpike.
yes, thank you.
Right, thank you. Next, I have Michael Fitzpatrick, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As you know, the staff sent out my report I finally put together. And I had an email exchange with Jason, which I had some copies, which I distributed to the people who were, most of the people who were here. And I was given two options, either discuss it now under public comments or member comments, or go for a getting on the agenda for next meeting. And that's like I'd like to do was get it on the agenda for next meeting. But before I make a motion, I would like to, I think, have Andrew clarify a couple of points, which I think would help people, be knowledgeable on voting on it. So
I believe Margie,
I just have a question. If you can provide me with a copy of that, so we can
Oh,
provide
sure.
it to all members and also enter it into the record. Thank you.
actually, if you want to provide it with who doesn't have one now, that's fine.
Thank you.
So could I get Andrew to answer a couple?
absolutely, Andrew, please, if you may join us at the podium.
And what the subject is, to present to the governing board that they should research whether or not we support and have moved forward to have 50% of all vehicles sold in 2030 be plug-in. So my questions, Andrew, is just to clarify a few things. So under the Florida statutes, part of it says each MPO shall provide for consideration of projects and strategies that will : and then it lists 7. Now, in my understanding in legal documents such as statutes, when it says shall, that means must. Is that your interpretation?
I don't have the statute in front of me.
Okay, well,
referring to. We shall, sure, must. I mean,
all right. Okay, well.
Mike, I assure you, when a statute says shall, it means you must, as opposed to may.
So, thank you, Jim. So there's 7 listed things that the MPO shall do, and I think 3 of them are relevant to this point. So number 2 listed is increase the safety and security of transportation system for motorized and non-motorized users. So is your opinion that electric vehicles will enhance this goal?
yes,
Okay. Because I was going to point out that last month I think it would fall into this. You had we voted on the adoption of the 2022 legislative policies and positions, and one of them was mandated adaptive cruise control, lane assistance, collision avoidance system on new vehicles, and provide funding to advance autonomous, connected, and electric vehicles and infrastructure. So the number 4 on the list is protect and enhance the environment, promote energy conservation, and improve quality of life. So my assertion is it helps enhance the environment by, if we go to electric vehicles, it'll cut out 5 million tons of carbon dioxide per year. And under promote energy conservation is between gasoline and electric. Electric cars are like, on the average, 450% more efficient. And then as far as improving quality of life, updated since last week, is there's been an American Lung Association report which states that if you go to 100% sales of zero emission passengers by 2035 and widespread adoption of renewable energy solutions, that will result in over 1.2 trillion in public health benefits by 2050 for the country, and such as nearly 3 million fewer asthma attacks, 110,000 less premature deaths, and 13 million fewer lost work days, plus 1.7 trillion in to avoid global climate damages. So switching to electric cars, do you think that would fall under that? That would be something to be considered for number 2 or number 4, protect and enhance the environment, promote energy conservation, improve quality of life. Should
Yes.
that be something to consider?
Yes.
Okay. And then there's promote efficient system number 6 is promote efficient system management and operation. And with better, as we stated, with that provide funding for autonomous connected electric vehicles and infrastructure, that will result in basically in stopping distances, the perception and reaction distances being cut out. And then nearly all the cars will instantaneously in unison brake. So do you agree that that means you'll be able to pack more cars safely on the same road so they wouldn't have to build as many lanes and stuff?
Sure. Yep.
Okay, that's all.
Okay.
Thanks.
For clarification, really what it comes down to is the discussion that we had about just the backtrack is that Michael Fitzpatrick provided a report that whatever the merits are, it could be fully supportive of what we're trying to do at TPA, but it was a CEC member report. And so we don't have a policy in our operating procedures right now about when members want to provide items to the committee, what's the procedure we should have in place for them to do so? And then how would that get brought in front of the board? And so our direction right now, we're going to write it into our policies, but our direction right now has been for Michael to provide it, or any other CEC members to provide it during member comments. And then if you all choose to move forward with whatever the information is to be presented to the board, you all could make a action on that. And if you approve that, you can go in front of whoever can go in front of the board to present that item. Now, if it's something that you do not approve of to move forward to see at the board, then any of you can go and make a public comment at the board to get on their agenda for the future. And that's how we do have that in our current operating procedures. So all the things you're saying about the merits of your report about wanting to move towards more sustainable types of vehicles and electric vehicles is supportive. That's just the operating procedures that we're under.
Thank you. That's, so I'd like to make a motion to have this on next meeting's agenda. And I'll do a little PowerPoint at that time.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor by Michael Fitzpatrick, right?
Clarification for this or for the board?
For,
this?
would you,
Shouldn't
Proceed.
it go through the CAC?
You can go through CAC.
first?
Yes, you could do it both ways, though. You could, you can provide your presentation now, and you could have asked for that item to be put to the board for next meeting. Or you can have it as an informational item for the CAC, and then take the following step to make a motion at that meeting to go to the board. Both ways work. So,
I'd rather just make a motion to bring it up next meeting with a presentation.
okay, and so the motion on the floor is for Michael to come to the CAC meeting next month with a presentation on electric vehicle and the benefits of electric vehicles
And revision 3 and backup.
and revision 3 in the backup. And we have a second by Myron. Now we have discussions. Yes, go ahead, Myron. No, actually,
Oh, I
Myron.
think their 10 cards are up for member comments.
Oh, for member comments.
Yeah.
Okay, absolutely. So right now we are addressing the motion that's on the floor right now. Paula Ryan.
Thank you. I just thank you for bringing that forward, and what it brings to mind is the question of the shall or will. Comes down to a lot of money questions. You know, a lot of time there's unfunded mandates and they end up being, somebody's responsibility. So I was just wondering if in these conversations, we're talking about budgets and policies that will be enacted or have to be enacted in order to meet these goals and objectives.
that's a good clarification. And that sort of goes towards like the operating procedures and when you want to put it onto staff. So to start making our recommendations or for us to have a full more review, because we don't want to have too much of like a scope creep about, because we already have our time commitment as staff. So that's why we want to have like a formal vote from you all into the board when it comes to having staff look into specific policy recommendations and the impacts to fiscal analysis or whatever it is, or staff time. So.
Are there any other member discussion on this item?
Mike, can you turn your mic on for me, please? Thank you.
What the goal is right now is just to have the governing board agree that it's an issue that should be looked into. And I'm not asking anybody to take my word or my research or anything. I'm saying then it's after it goes to the board, all I'm asking the board to do at this time is ship it back to the technical advisory board and have them tear it apart and see if it's right or not. And then from there, if there's going to be any recommendations, it would be coming from the technical advisory board back to them. So that's the point, is just get it on the agenda. Let's, tear it apart, kick it around, see if it flies.
I have a comment for you, Michael. Have you reached out to Megan Houston? She is the Director, Office of Resilience for Palm Beach County itself.
If her name's not on the front page, which it's not, then no.
I think this is because this is really outside my realm. You're talking about electric vehicles outside driving one. I really don't have a lot of knowledge on the benefits of it. And so I appreciate your research. I also think that as we're moving forward, and this is a very special topic that you would like for us to consider, that before coming to the next meeting, maybe you really want to have a one-on-one conversation with Miss Megan Houston. She is
How do you spell her name? What's her last name?
Houston,
Like Sam.
like Sam Houston, yeah, like a city. And she is the director for Palm Beach County, the Office of Resilience. And maybe she has additional information that can help you aid, your topic. And that it will be a very good conversation for us to, before the next meeting, before your presentation. Yes, sir, Mr. Mark Bruner.
Just as a question of procedure about how this is going to happen. So at the next meeting, under item 1E, we will have a presentation from Michael. And because it's at that point on the agenda, the CAC can make a motion to transmit this information to both the TAC and to the TPA board for their consideration, because we want them to look into the issue further. Is that what we're going to be able to do with the next meeting?
I believe so. Yes, there's a lot of possibilities. I don't know what is Michael's intent until we understand his intent with his presentation. What we as a board can make an action item.
I just want to make sure that procedurally we don't get to the next meeting. He makes this presentation. It's like, well, that's nice, but we can't do anything about it.
Right.
Madam Chair,
Sure.
if I may, the item would be listed under 3. So following your normal agenda, it's administrative items are usually at the front. I'm sorry, regular items are at the front, action items, and then information. So in the next agenda will be listed under informational only. And then if the committee feels that they'd like to take up a motion, they're always welcome to do motions.
Okay, understood. Are there any other comments? Myron? No problem. Are there any public comments on this item?
Yes.
Oh, we have a public comment. Welcome to the podium.
That's a first.
Hi, good afternoon.
Being the first public comment item we.
Well, different to be on this side of the board. My name is Tomas Boyton. I was the founder and CEO of Citizens for Improved Transit, and I've sat on the MPO CAC advisory board for probably about 8 years and the TPA CAC board for about 1 or 2 years. And about 2 years ago, I stepped down, but being excited to be more involved in transit again. I'm a huge fan of electric vehicles, and about 2 months ago, Elon Musk, who I'm a big fan of, put out a tweet of something that he's developing. And I think it'll be silent until a product comes out unless we reach out to see if they'd be interested in it. I know we have like on Okeechobee Boulevard, we have smart cameras. So it kind of sees how much vehicles there are and helps relay. Well, he discussed coming out with a new product that could be attached onto existing stoplights. And so it's an AI type device that'll be able to look and see how many cars are there, how many vehicles are there, and actually create a smart flow using this. South Florida has one of the highest amount of Tesla vehicles in the United States. And so I think, and we also have great weather for autonomy. So I've reached out to Tesla on another thing with some superchargers, but I think this is something that the TPA might want to reach out to see if they're developing to say, hey, this might be an area that we want to do, because again, it's for pedestrians as well as people. It's for electric vehicles as well as gas powered vehicles, because it's really looking at the road and seeing what's coming in all directions and then doing it on real time. So if you wanted some assistance with that, I'd be happy to help.
All right, great. Are there any other comments on this item? Okay, seeing none, we do have a motion by Michael and a second by Myron. Do we do a roll call or?
It's your preference.
Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Nay. Okay, motion carries. So this item for Mr. Fitzpatrick will be on next month's agenda as information item.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. So next I have Richard Vasilati for member comments.
Thank you, Madam Chair. After our short meeting last month, I was in no rush to get home. I decided to take a little ride around the downtown area, a place I frequented often back in the 90s when I was younger and single and all that stuff. Clematis was my favorite place. You know, they had the beer truck down there and the bands on Thursday night by the old library. It was a lot of fun. That library is now gone, and they have the beautiful fountains there overlooking the intercoastal. And you have the east end of Clematis is almost like an iconic focal point for the city. And the road comes around and kids are playing in the fountains, and you got the floating docks out there for people to pull their boats up and come on in. And as I'm driving around there, I was completely taken by surprise. I was shocked, and I sat back in my truck for a second, and I was like, how could this happen? It was the amount of homeless people that are camped out in that area. And you have the condos and the businesses and the restaurants, and everything's right there. And that's not a good thing for anybody, the unfortunate people that are in that situation, the residents that want to come visit this. And it took me by surprise. So I got home, I made a couple phone calls, and I was told, no, this has been going on for years. And I was shocked by that. So you're probably wondering, what's this have to do with roads? I'll get to that point in a second. So I don't know how many years ago it was, not too long ago, Palm Beach County, City of West Palm successfully set up in cooperation with the city, an area off of 45th Street where they had a shelter set up for homeless people with good success. Recently, Palm Beach County completely emptied the homeless camp in John Prince Park and relocated these people at the old stockade, renovated it, and given them a home. They're fed, they're given rehab to get them off any drugs or alcohol that they're on. And that's a good thing, because it's very unfortunate to see people living in a situation like this. And plus it hurts businesses, it hurts restaurants, it hurts, it's not an easygoing situation for people that want to come visit these places. So West Palm, 45th Street was somewhere around 6 million, 2 million for the stockade to get these going. Let's say $8 million, and we can even round it up to $9 million. So how come this has been going on for so long? Well, about 3.5 years ago, roughly, the Palm Beach Post reported that the city of West Palm Beach has spent $8 to $9 million fighting a State Road 7 extension. I have several very credible, high-ranking officials that I know that have said to me They don't even believe that number is accurate. They believe that number is in tune of 15 million, maybe even more. I'm curious to know exactly what that number is. So to spend that money to fight a road, it is going to go through, it's going to happen. They can keep putting up the stops. It will eventually happen. A sliver of that money that they're using to fight this road, why couldn't we help these people? Why can't we relocate them, get them somewhere else with the help they need? I find that just unfortunate. I cannot stand seeing money wasted, tax dollars, special interests and things like that, where you're wasting money when there's other people that could really, really use the help. Plus that money could go, that could have built 2 fire stations for the city of West Palm. It could go to the police departments. And it's being wasted on 2-something miles of road, whatever it is, for a few people who do not want a road behind their neighborhood. And I guarantee you this, if those people relocated on State Road 7, right off North Lake Boulevard to the east entrance of Ibis, they would be getting the help they need. If they were parked out in front of Andros Isles, they would be getting the help they need. So the city needs to stop wasting the money. And that is my comment for today. Thank you for listening.
All right, thank you so much. Myron.
It's on now. Thank you. Several months ago, I think it was January, the CAC was presented with proposed amendments to the bylaws dealing with how the CAC members are appointed. There was no follow-up to that as far as I know. And I'm curious, is there a schedule for presentation of bylaw changes that will come back to the CAC for recommendation to the governing board? And when will it be on the governing board's agenda? And if so, what are the staff's current views about how there will be a transition in the membership of this committee? Just for background, this committee the membership of this committee does not conform to the requirements of federal and state law with respect to distribution of interests.
Jason.
Yep.
Yep.
So we sent out a survey. We got most of the responses back. I think there might be a few more. I'm going to summarize all those responses. Some of those questions ask, do you feel like how do you like the CAC in terms of its operating, and are you happy with how it's performing? And do you want to make any changes? I don't know the questions exactly, but you guys have gotten all the surveys, and we're going to synthesize that information, bring it back to you to say, what is the direction of the CAC? How do you guys all feel about how it's operating now? And do you want to see changes? And if so, what those changes are based on the group? And so that's what the survey will provide us, the direction to say, is this an issue to take up and carry on forward? Or are we all happy with how things are operating? And we kind of leave it at that. And then I'll follow up with TPA management to see if they want to bring it forward. But it's really up to the CAC in general to say, are you satisfied with how we operate currently and how it's run? And if you want to see changes, what those changes might be. And that was kind of the driver of the survey. So really, before it goes any further, we're going to get those results, bring them back to you. I'm going to, and then we can have a discussion on what the survey results were. And at that time, we can decide on what the next steps are for the CAC.
Will your report of that information be displayed against the requirements of law? I mean, the whole problem was, and I remember we did the survey about 3 years ago. The law federal and state law requires the Citizen Advisory Committee to be comprised of citizens who have interests of various kinds, commercial interests, transportation interests, the disabled interests, And there are a whole bunch of them. I don't know what they all are from memory. And about 3 years ago, we did a survey, and it turned out that 90% of the members of the commission at the CAC at that time fell into the category of the interest of the elderly. There was no one on the committee with an interest in public transportation. There was no one on the committee with an interest in accommodation for the well, I take that back. Terry, I think, is interested in the interests of the disabled, and but there are, I think, about 8 or 9 of these categories, and 6 or 7 of them were empty. And the question was at the time was how can the appointments to this committee be structured? How can the process be developed so that the committee is in fact consistent with the membership of the committee is consistent with the requirements of law? And my impression of the proposed changes that we discussed in January was an effort to move in that direction. It's not a question of whether we like the way the committee is working. The question is this structure, are we consistent with the requirements of law?
Yes, we are in consistency with the laws because we do a biannual state certification for the MPO, and we review all of the federal charges that we're under to operate under. And then we do a 4-year federal certification with FHWA and FTA to say, are we meeting all of the responsibilities of the organization? And we report back on that. And if you're not, they tell you, and you get a corrective action. And then you have to act promptly on responding to that. Now, it may
I'm
not
sorry,
be
Jason.
within,
Yeah, I know.
let me
I
finish
know you
my
have that
sentence. Let
compliance
me
thing.
finish my sentence.
Sure.
Thank you. So under the federal regulations, we are operating appropriately. However, we wanted to look into further, can the CAC, we considered restructuring it, we put it forward. It didn't go at, it just, we're trying to be proactive to say, should we do this? Should we change things around? And we got mixed feelings about it. So we did the survey. And so now we're kind of reevaluating how, if any changes are needed. So we're operating okay the way that we should. And at this point, I feel like you're asking us to maybe change it a little more to go beyond what we're required to do. And, we're meeting all the requirements as stated, and it's up to the governing board to appoint each CAC member and how they see fit. And so it's really something you have to kind of lobby with your elected officials to say, appoint what you see fit as a CAC member, but everybody here is a citizen and you all meet the requirements to be here, and we're all happy to have you here. And so if they don't meet the requirements that, or the expectations that you may feel that they do not, we're still meeting all the requirements. It just might be the perception that you have about how it's put together. And I see it, I understand it, but we've made the efforts to consider changes. And at this point, it doesn't seem like, well, I'll see what the results are from the survey to say, do you feel like we should change it to operate differently? But otherwise, to answer the first question, we're definitely operating within the federal and state guidelines to meet the requirements. They're broad requirements. So I could see how you would want, make it more stringent to fit your perception of what it should be. But it's not there currently.
Jay, I'm sorry, if I may interrupt. I know that there's a survey that came out and we did not receive 100% from members, their comments. Is it possible for staff to send a reminder to the survey again to
Yeah,
the
there's
board?
just a few more, and we have our administrative assistant that are going to follow up specifically with the few people that may have not completed the survey. So we have 100% of everybody responding. So we'll keep on that until next meeting, and then I'll be able to synthesize those results, probably put it as an informational item. And then maybe do a presentation if it takes that to kind of highlight what the changes are and maybe some of the considerations. And, similar to the direction of other informational items, we could take action on it at that point.
I look forward to the data obtained from the survey, and I'll be glad to stand corrected if in fact we do have the distribution as required by law. But I must say, I read the statement that is made that says that we're in compliance that you referred to. And all it says is the CAC is in compliance. There's no data to suggest that it is. And when we did the survey just before that, we were not in compliance. And so I look forward to the data that you provide, and I hope that you will provide numbers of members of the CAC that fall into each of the required categories.
Thank you. And I think what the board is asking, if we could, one, reiterate and send out that email and make sure that we get as many member participation as possible. So if everybody can please, if you have not filled out the survey, I did it on my phone. It took me less than 10 minutes. Please take that into consideration and help us get that data. And then two, Jason, if we can put it on the next agenda as an information item, irregardless if we get 100% of the survey results or not. Next is Paula Ryan, please.
Thank you. I just wanted to say that these questions as it relates to who is on the board and what category they fit in, that was all on the survey. It kind of said to you, where do you think you lie? Or so I think that data will be available. But also 3 years ago, I have to say it's an opportunity to point out how hard the TPA has worked in that period, because getting citizen participation was not always easy. And with these efforts and with these attention on this, the governing board, the county commissioners, city commissioners have really stepped up. And look at this board. I mean, we have an amazing board. And from 3 years to where we are today, I just want to say kudos and thank you.
All right. Yeah, and definitely, if there is really an outcome out of this conversation, I really liked to relay back to the TPA board itself that we need more membership, especially the vacant membership. That
we have 5 vacancies.
We have that 5 vacancy, and it's very challenging. And I think we brought it up every other meeting that it would be great if they could participate as well. Are there any other public comments member comments at this time? Terry?
I don't see any hands raised, and I don't see any more time cards.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. And now we're going to move to item 1F, the CAC liaison reports, please.
Okay, I'll take care of the liaison report. There's a paper copy in front of you, and it's also included in the backup. First item, the TPA hosted a mobility and economic development panel that was on March 31st to discuss mobility and economic development trends. And that was well received and attended. Next is the Belglade Vision Zero. We are congratulating the city of Belglade for adopting their Vision Zero resolution on March 23rd. So they join a host of other cities that also have adopted a Vision Zero resolution. So we're very glad to see that. And we are always pressing other cities to join that group to pass a Vision Zero resolution. The National Bike and Roll to School Day. The TPA encourages local municipalities and schools to celebrate the National Bike and Roll School Day, and that's on May 4th. And you can get more information at walkbiketoschool.org. And The next item, the TPA has been hosting or is conducting the Okeechobee Boulevard and State Route 7 multimodal corridor study. And so there's a public workshop I encourage you to attend on May 10th from 2 to 4 p.m. And that's right here at our offices, at the Palm Beach TPA offices. And this has been an ongoing study for the last several months. It's going to run all the way from downtown on Okeechobee Boulevard to State Route 7 and then go south for a little while into close to where the malls are. So it's a lengthy study that is going, looking at that corridor specifically and visioning it for the future of how could it be a more diverse multimodal corridor. And your participation is highly encouraged to come voice your opinion on it and help shape the future. And one way we do that is through our long-range transportation plan, but also through corridor studies. We go corridor by corridor and do these studies. And this is one of those ways to participate on a corridor level instead of on a plan level. Next is the TPA Vision Zero workshop. The Vision Zero workshop's planned for May 13th from 2 to 4 p.m. And we're also hosting this. This is going to be a virtual workshop, and you can get more information at palmbeachtpa.org/VZ workshop. And there's just a few more items here. The multimodal project discretionary grant. The US DOT announces a funding opportunity for 3 grants, and that's Mega, Infra, and Rural, with applications due May 23rd. And lastly, we have a governing board meeting that's scheduled for April 21st from 9 a.m. But I'd like to also mention that there's an executive committee meeting on April 12th. So there's 2 there's 2 kind of governing board oriented meetings, and the main board will be on May 21st or April 21st, and then the executive committee on the 12th. And that concludes the liaison report.
All right, thank you so much. I have a question on your information item number 4. Is there an online participation, or is it only going to be a live event here at the TPA office?
It would only be in person.
Okay. Is it possible, because I know every board member here is very busy, for you to put a reminder on our calendar? Margie?
Sure.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Are there any other, okay, there are no, right now we have no action item on the agenda, so we're going to move to the information item. Right now, item 3A is the Brightline update. I invite Ali Soul, the Brightline VP of Communication Community Relations, to present.
Thank you, Chair, and good afternoon to the board. I appreciate the opportunity to present and to provide an update on Brightline and answer any questions that you may have. So I'm going to provide a quick update. If the clicker works. It's okay. I was about to say it worked earlier this morning. I was here presenting to the Technical Advisory Committee this morning. So as many of you know, Brightline is the only privately owned and operated express intercity passenger rail service. We currently operate in Florida, but we are working on the development of our second system, which would connect Southern California to Las Vegas. And we hope to kick that project off in relatively short order. But again, our goal is to connect key city pairs that are too long to drive and too short to fly. So here in Florida, we've accomplished a lot, especially over the past couple of months. We did shut down in March of 2022 due to COVID. We temporarily suspended operations, but we relaunched the service in November, and we did so by hiring 200 new teammates. We launched Brightline Plus, which is our door-to-door mobility solution service. We continued construction on our expansion to Orlando, Orlando. And we also continued construction on our additional inline stations in South Florida, which will be located in Boca Raton and Aventura. So I'm excited to say that our Orlando extension is nearly 75% complete. We do expect substantial completion on that by the end of the year, and then we will open the system to Orlando in early 2023. So I always ask, but how many people in this room have been on Brightline? Oh man, for those who have not, our stations are centrally located in each of the 3 cities and soon to be 2 other cities where we operate. So in downtown Miami, our station is located on the property where Henry Flagler bought his when he extended the Florida East Coast Railway. On the same piece of property, it was parking lots for a number of decades until we developed it into about 1.5 million square feet of transit-oriented development. It connects with Metro Rail, Metro Mover, a direct connection to the airport, and soon Tri-Rail will connect. Our station in Fort Lauderdale is located just north of Broward Boulevard. West Palm Beach is obviously right in the heart of downtown West Palm Beach. You have the square to the south, Clematis District to the north, and then our station in Boca will be almost right across the street from Meisner Park, and our station in Aventura will also be right across the street from the Aventura Mall, and we are working with Aventura and the Florida Department of Transportation in Miami-Dade County on a pedestrian overpass that would connect the station directly to the mall. So Brightline Plus, I mentioned, is our new door-to-door service powered by our app and supported by our fleet of electric vehicles. We offer this service and we will start charging for it actually pretty soon, but you can book a private trip in a Tesla. It will pick you up and drop you off within a 5-mile radius of our station. You can also book a group trip, if you like to call it that, in a shared van. So you will be paired with others who are going to similar destinations as you. We've also worked with our key tourism partners to provide this type of shuttle service to events like Miami Food and Wine Festival, Pride events. We just announced that we're partnering with Inter Miami, the soccer club that's located in Fort Lauderdale, and we will provide shuttle service during game days to the stadium. And here in West Palm Beach, we were really excited. I think it was last month, time flies when you're having fun, that we launched our bike share program. So Brightline is the title sponsor. We really thought that, downtown West Palm Beach is the perfect place to have this micromobility option. And so we worked closely with Related and with Micromobility Management to bring it back to the city. So I mentioned phase 2. We are very on track to Orlando. Again, almost 75% complete with construction. Expect to finish that by the end of this year, open it early next year. And the reason why we just don't have a specific date on that is because once we finish construction, there is an FRA, which stands for Federal Railroad Administration certification process. So there are a number of things that they have to come in, review, check, make sure that they were done properly, test. And when that process is complete, then the system can open. And I told the earlier group, I don't make it to Orlando to see the construction as often as I would like. So I would assume that most people here probably have not either. But you really don't understand the magnitude of the project until you actually see it. So I have a short, fun video to show what we've been working on in Orlando and really how large of an infrastructure project this is. And that's just for our system for the State Road 528 corridor. We have our north-south project, which, as many of you on the south of West Palm Beach experience that construction work. So we are double tracking the corridor between West Palm Beach and Cocoa, similar to what we did between West Palm Beach and Miami. Although our trains will reach higher speeds between West Palm Beach and Cocoa, up to 110 in certain spots. And then we're building about 40 miles of new track between, which you just saw, between Cocoa and the airport, where our trains will reach top speeds of 125 miles an hour. And that section has no grade crossings. So on the grade crossings, every single crossing on the corridor will be upgraded to meet the highest standards that are set by both the Federal Railroad Administration and the Florida Department of Transportation. Every intersection has gates, has bells, has whistles, has warning devices that are put in place to advise motorists, pedestrians, and bicyclists that a train is approaching. Unfortunately, we've seen that even with that infrastructure in place, people continue to make illegal and deadly decisions, but every single crossing has what is required and needed to attempt to warn the individuals who are traversing the railroad. We will also install sealed corridors, which simply refers to the infrastructure that's at the crossing. It doesn't refer to the areas in between crossings at areas where we will exceed 79 miles an hour, along with vehicle presence detection. Our trains currently operate with positive train control, which is a federal mandate. When we launch to Orlando, our entire system will have what's called PTC, and we're making a significant investment in a number of bridges along the corridor that will either be replaced or rehabbed, but 3 of them they cross navigable waterways in Palm Beach County. That's the Loxahatchee Bridge, which we are starting construction on that on Sunday. So in Palm Beach County, 88% of our crossings are complete. We have a few more crossings that are online probably toward the end of the summer, although these dates are always subject to change. Our construction team does give 2 weeks notice to any of these crossing impacts, if you will, because we want to make sure that the traveling public, Palm Tran, anybody who's using the roadway knows that it's coming and can determine their alternate route. I mentioned the Loxahatchee. We're making a significant investment in the Loxahatchee River Bridge. The track today is a double track structure, but only one track is in the bridge. And so we are going to come in and rehabilitate that bridge and add that second track back. This makes for obviously better use of the railroad across the waterway. Instead of having to slow a train either north or south, trains can cross on the bridge, similar to what we see at the New River in downtown Fort Lauderdale. Unfortunately, the St. Lucie River, which is in Martin County, is a single track structure. So later this year, we will be rehabilitating that bridge, but we will not be adding a second track because that structure does not allow for it. We also partnered with the Jupiter Inlet District here in Jupiter to add vertical clearance to one portion of the spans of the bridge. This will be about 14 inches, which will it will be mostly for local knowledge for mariners, but it will actually provide a pretty big increase that will allow a certain number of extra boats to be able to go under the bridge when it's in the down position. So this is an important project for us that, again, we're starting on Sunday. We'll go until about May 25th. And we do have our text message system that we're implementing so that people can understand what are the upcoming closures, when is the bridge open, et cetera. Then I like to end all of my presentations, obviously, on one of the most important topics that Brightline is focused on, which is safety. We've been focused on safety since day one. Since before we even ran operations, and we continue to be focused on it with our partners here at the TPA. The TPA staff has worked very closely with us to help get local governments involved and to help spread the message about safety. The Federal Railroad Administration has actually come down to South Florida multiple times, including one about 6 weeks ago, where they held a workshop in Boynton Beach to talk about how we as a community can combat some of these incidents and risky behaviors that we're seeing, because again, the infrastructure is there. So if people are deciding to circumvent it, how can we continue to enforce the law and educate people that this is dangerous and deadly behavior? We are also piloting several projects that we've seen other railroads do. Sunrail in Orlando did a red light project, so we decided to actually try that out ourselves. We installed 2 red light cameras at 2 crossings in North Miami over the course of about 3 or 4 months. And at the end of that pilot, the railroad is not a law enforcement agency, therefore we cannot issue citations. We can send warning letters. And at the end of that program, we had sent about 900 warning letters to individuals who had either circumvented the gates or stopped on the tracks. And as a result of that, we were able to go to the local law enforcement and say, hey, there's a problem here, and we really need your help with actually being out there to enforce the behavior and to enforce the correct behavior and to educate people on the law. And, I'd say the crazy thing about it, but it's probably not going to come as a shock to any of us in here, multiple people got multiple violations. So you had people who were doing it more than once, maybe getting this letter and not even opening it. But again, it's something that we're trying to look at expanding in other parts of the region as well. We also work with law enforcement along the corridor. Obviously, they are a close partner of ours to make sure that people are educated. The Lake Worth Beach Sheriff's Office in Lake Worth Beach actually did a blitz a couple of weeks ago for about a week, and they issued about 240 citations while they were out on the railroad right away. So you can see that this type of enforcement works. Again, we are partnering with the Florida Department of Transportation to go after a RAISE grant. That is a federal grant that is actually, the application is due on April 14th. This grant is about a $45 million project scope that would go from Miami-Dade County all the way to Brevard. It would look at adding additional safety enhancements to the corridor, such as added fencing and landscaping to provide for channelization, additional signage. The Long Island Railroad did a project where they installed delineators along the railroad within the crossing, because they found, as we have, that a person, if they're following their GPS or they're not familiar with the area, they might turn left or right onto the tracks and think that it's a roadway instead of a railway. And these delineators, similar to what you'd see on I-95, would educate people that that's not where they're supposed to be turning. So we're very hopeful that we will be awarded that grant. We're also partnering closely with 211 and with other mental health providers in the region. Brightline itself is not a mental health provider, but we recognize the importance of being a community partner to bring awareness to the population about what resources are available. And so I ask all of you here, obviously you're all very interested in transportation and feel strongly about the matter, but the more people that we can have out in the community talking about safety, making smart decisions. People talk about going around the gates, reminding them that that is dangerous and illegal, and encouraging them not to do so. That concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to take any questions.
All right, thank you so much. Michael Fitzpatrick has his card up, Mark Bruner, Ryan Rossi, James Garvin, and then Jim Knight, in that order, please. Thank you.
Is there any shuttle service between Tri-Rail stations in West Palm and planned in Boca or anything, or is it just, is it much faster going down Brightline versus going to Miami on Tri-Rail?
So Tri-Rail and Brightline are complementary services. Obviously, there's a difference with the price point and with the service itself. Tri-Rail today terminates at the Miami Intermodal Center, which is located at the Miami Airport. And then you have to transfer via Metro Rail to get to downtown Miami. Ultimately, Tri-Rail will come into our downtown Miami Central. However, going from West Palm Beach to Miami on Tri-Rail takes about 2 hours because it stops at 20-something stations along the way. Brightline to Miami takes a little over an hour, right? So it serves different needs for different people. The Tri-Rail station is in West Palm Beach specifically, is within that 1 mile, 5 mile radius for our ride service program. So if a guest of Brightlines wanted to go to the Tri-Rail facilities, they could absolutely book that or use a bike because we have a bike share station at the Tri-Rail facilities to get there.
When goal of this, of the TPA is a long-term wish list thing is coastal tri-rail. And I read somewhere there was a problem with bringing tri-rail into Miami because there's different platform heights between the two systems. Has that been worked out? And my concern is when you're planning Boca, is there a plan for if there's tri-rail that there will be a way to work that out in Boca and West Palm?
So, so we are working closely with Tri-Rail to get them into Miami Central as fast as possible. There are a number of things that both our company and their agency are working to resolve, and we're working together on that. Looks like, I think Steve said, or Tri-Rail said in recent press that they hope to be in before the end of the year. So I would defer to them on questions on their timeline. But that is, that is public record. As it relates to Tri-Rail Coastal Link, so yes, you're absolutely right. There is a long-term goal of all 3 counties to have a commuter rail type service on the FEC corridor. Miami-Dade County calls it the Northeast Corridor. They are moving forward with that. It is an element of their SMART plan. Broward County is also moving forward with their component. Their big thing right now is determining their preferred alternative for the crossing of the New River. But then Palm Beach County has it in their plans and is working on it, but unlike Miami-Dade and Broward, Palm Beach County does not have a tax that is dedicated to fund transportation projects. And so you have Miami-Dade County and Broward, which are looking to do so through some of their ability to fund it.
So in Broward and Miami, you've worked out the kinks so that they're compatible, and, can you go from one station for Tri-Rail, really close to the Brightline stations in Fort Lauderdale or Miami?
So in Miami Central,
Miami Central, yeah, that's
they
good.
will
But
connect.
what about
directly.
Fort Lauderdale?
So it depends really on the type of alternative that they pick to cross the New River. There's discussions of a tunnel. There's discussions of, a 65-foot fixed bridge, I think is one of the alternatives, a 25-foot bascule bridge. So really all of that will play into how it integrates with our station and where a Tri-Rail station would be located. So I would say it's preliminarily to answer that.
So like what you said, like a bridge, do you have any idea how many feet you need of track to go up 1 foot, for instance? How far back do they have to start to do an overpass?
I do not have I don't have the answer for that.
So I went from Rome to Naples several years ago, and it was 300 kilometers per hour, which works out to about 186. So my question is, the plan is now from 120 up to 125 going to Orlando. Are they planning ahead? Like, are the bends and stuff planned for going up to 300 kilometers per hour somewhere down the road, or will it have to be?
Not on this corridor. So this corridor is the FEC Railway is a shared corridor where both freight and passenger service exist. There are also, 300 plus grade crossings that every person in this room uses to traverse east-west. And the cost for either raising the rail, which, freight would have significant difficulties, if not impossible to operate on that. And the cost for then raising every single grade crossing, not to mention the impact to communities, makes it not feasible. But our project in California and Las Vegas will be primarily within the I-15 right of way, and we will reach top speeds of almost 200 miles an hour. So that project is set to be the nation's first true high-speed rail project.
Nice. One last question. So the Loxahatchee Bridge is, my understanding, that's like a swing bridge, not a drawbridge, but it rotates.
It's a bascule bridge.
A what?
It's a bascule bridge.
Oh, it does raise.
Yes.
Oh, okay. All right, thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Mark Bruner?
Yeah, just curious about the status. I know there were some discussions about putting a station somewhere along the Treasure Coast from Stewart, Fort Pierce, Bureau, somewhere up in there. Are those discussions still going forward?
So our number one priority right now is finishing construction to Orlando and getting that system launched, and then obviously getting the stations in Boca Raton and Aventura operational. We have an agreement with Martin County that within 5 years of launching service to Orlando, we will add a station in the Treasure Coast. And so obviously we look forward to restarting and re-engaging with them on that station location discussion.
So there is a timeline. That's
Yeah, and we also have, significant interest from Brevard County on a station in the Cocoa area. So we have to look at all of those, right? What it means for the entire operations of the system. But we're happy that people see the benefit and value of Brightline and want to bring it to their communities.
Okay, thank you so much. Ryan Rossi?
Thank you so much. And thank you for the presentation. I've been a huge supporter of this project from the very beginning, even before Boca was on the map for you guys. But certainly, talking with so many residents in the city, we're very excited for it. My question to you is, and based on a lot of people that I've spoken with, does Brightline have a plan to prepare the city for when these trains become operational, when the station is finished? And I didn't quite catch when the station will be finished in Boca. I think it's this fall, correct?
Yes, it's before the end of the year.
We have a lot of traffic density now with a lot of development that's going on. You've got major roadways with Glades and Palmetto and how they all intersect there on Dixie and Federal. So I just want to verify that Brightline does have a plan to kind of break this in for all of the traffic and the residents that are there.
So the good news is Brightline operates through the city of Boca Raton today. And so with a station, the operations really, they don't actually change all that much. We obviously slow down to stop at the station. We picked that location and I will verify this because it won't impact any of your grade crossings while the train is in the station, and then the train departs, right? So it is very similar to what happens now. But I mean, I work closely with Anne Marie and with the mayor. Obviously, their top concern is safety, for their residents and for the businesses. And so absolutely, we're always talking about safety. And as we get closer to launching service, we will continue to talk about that safety message.
Well, and feel free to use us, those of us that are representing the city here on the TPA board.
We'd love to.
I would love to, I can only speak for myself. I don't know about Madam Chair, but, we'd love to be out in the community talking about this if that's possible. So,
We would love that.
okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you so much. James Garvin, please.
Thank you for the presentation today, Ali. First of all, I've taken a couple trips to Orlando recently and taken the beach line, and I can tell you it's a massive undertaking. The amount of dirt being moved, the amount of infrastructure is just, I don't think I've seen anything like it. And so I appreciate you all taking on that for the betterment of mobility in the state of Florida. Secondly, I did attend the Mobility and Economic Development panel here at the TPA where Jonathan presented. I've seen that presentation a couple of times now, and fascinating, a great addition. I am very intrigued to see how you continue to grow the system in the future. Also, I happen to work with the 211 helpline here in Palm Beach County. They're a client of mine and great resource. And I just appreciate your support of that organization. I think it's actually very beneficial to get the knowledge of that option out to people that are in need. That leads me to my question. You mentioned channelization in the construction of either landscape or hardscape barriers around areas that may be of concern.
Yes.
So the question being is, what is the implementation strategy for that? And if so, what are the metrics that would need to kind of say start that implementation in specific areas?
So we actually did a pilot project in Southern Palm Beach County where we identified 7 locations in Boynton Beach, Delray, and Lantana, where we had a high number of trespassing incidents. And so we try to make all of these decisions based on data because fencing and landscaping isn't the solution for every issue that you see. Fencing can actually sometimes do more harm than good, where it can trap people within the corridor and then they're not able to get out. And so we worked with Community Greening, which is a Palm Beach County nonprofit, to install fencing and native Florida plants that deter trespassing and require minimal maintenance, if you will. And to date, we have actually had no incidents in those areas. So we found them to be successful. And so we actually, per federal regulation, have to go through what's called a hazard analysis. And that hazard analysis will help us continue to define where else that type of infrastructure would be necessary or helpful. And we're doing the same thing with that RAISE grant, right? Working with FDOT and working on what we have an FEC has for facts for recent incidents on where that infrastructure would go.
Great. And also with 300 crossings across the line, there's only so much of channeling that would actually be beneficial in the long run. But are there any other enhancements beyond what's required by the government as far as strengthening the integrity of those crossings to prevent trespassing?
I mean, that's it's a great question, but like I said, each crossing has all of the infrastructure that is federally mandated to prevent people from traversing it, while the train is approaching and going through the crossing. I don't know if anybody saw the video that from our recent incident from this week, but there was a car stopped at the crossing and another car went around that car to circumvent the grade crossing. I mean, so we're seeing things that are just shocking, if you will. And so we're working very closely with the FRA on, again, how can anything else be done? And the FRA is in turn turning to local governments in the community and saying, how can you also step up to the plate and help solve this problem, right? Because it's not a Brightline problem. It's not an FECR problem. It's a community problem. And we all have to work together very closely, with law enforcement, with outreach, with school districts, with local representatives, as the board member said, to get the message across.
Thank you, Ali.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. I'm also very embarrassed about our Florida drivers in this area. Jim Knight, please.
First of all, I'd like to apologize for raising my hand that I have not been on Brightline yet, but I'm very excited. I live within 3 miles, I got 4 miles of the Boca location and look forward to riding on a regular basis and not having to be rude and get up when Richard was speaking here to move my car because I neglected to realize I parked in a 30-minute spot across the street. So anyhow, is there a way that law enforcement can significantly increase the cost of a ticket for going around? Because you mentioned those 900 cases. Well, if someone gets hit with like $1,000 ticket, I think back to the old days when littering was, I don't know, $50 or maybe it was even less and so forth here in South Florida. I was just wondering if there's a way that that penalty can be significantly increased and all of a sudden someone gets hit with $1,000 for going around the gate, that might not happen again. And then I was wondering, is there a way you mentioned that Palm Beach County does not have a tax to help with this. Is there a way that part of the gas tax can be utilized?
I would defer that question. I mean,
it's
to
probably not a good question to ask, but hey,
I think that's more of a policy, a statute question. I think that the statute probably states how that money can be used. I'm not the correct person to answer that, but I can answer your first question. And the short thing is, so there's actually a nonprofit called Operation Lifesaver. Florida has an OLI board. Brightline, I am a member, and we've been talking internally about Brightline, about actually working with our local legislators, our state legislators, about increasing that fine, because you're right. If it's $50, it doesn't really hurt. If it's $300, you might think about it a little bit differently. And I think that this is more of, and we've been working with FDOT very closely on this, is how do we make this an issue? Just like you get taught in driver's ed, and when you do a driving test, you learn about signs and lights. In most cases, there are no questions about railroads and how to interact with railroads. So we look at it as kind of a much broader conversation on how can we highlight this issue and bring awareness and importance to it, because it's not just Brightline, there's Sunrail, there's Tri-Rail, there's Amtrak that operates. So we really want to work with the communities to bring that into focus. So I appreciate that question, and we would probably come back and let boards such as these know about those activities, because we would need support to move that forward at the statewide level.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Richard, and then back to James. Just Richard.
All my years in the fire department, I've seen firsthand what a train can do to a vehicle that's on the tracks, and it's not pleasant. And these aren't even speeds, such as the Bright Line. Since its inception, do you have a statistic of how many vehicle crashes have occurred with a Bright Line train?
We keep track of that, and the FRA keeps track of that. I don't have that information off the top of my head,
Okay,
but I can certainly follow up if you'd like me to get it.
sure. Is there, sometimes when you get a crash with a train and a vehicle, especially when it's a bigger vehicle, maybe like a semi or a tanker or something, a lot of times a train may come off the tracks, and that's even a more additional problem. With the construction of the Bright Line, is there any features that try to prohibit the train from actually jumping track as compared to maybe a normal freight train? Anything like that you may know of?
I think I have an answer, but I would prefer to check with my team and get back to
Okay.
you on that.
That's it.
Want to
Thank
make
you.
sure I'm getting the right information out
Sure.
there.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you so much. I think as really as a reminder, when Brightline's being operational, especially north of West Palm Beach, quiet zones, and you might want to really coordinate with your any cities that's north, which is really Gardens, Lake Park, Riviera Beach, that that needs to be established, and the TPA has really been in the middle of helping city establish quiet zones. Thank you so much, Ali, for your presentation.
One question, please.
Oh, I'm sorry. You do
Sorry,
have.
I put my hand up.
I didn't see it. I apologize. Go ahead, Terry.
I unmuted. I didn't put my hand up, but now you recognize me, and I appreciate it. The thing I was going to ask was about freight being priority on the shared corridor. Is there going to be an issue with dispatching the trains when you're full-blown operational? The freight's going to have #1 priority. Is that correct?
So that is not correct. I'm not sure who I'm addressing, though. Thank you.
Terry Brown.
Thank you. Thank you, board member, for the question. No, so Brightline and Florida East Coast Railway jointly started what's called the Florida Dispatch Co. It is 50-50 owned, and it is based in Jacksonville and dispatches all of the trains on the corridor. And Brightline actually, as a passenger service, does have priority. But that is why Brightline invested so much in this project. That's why we double tracked the corridor, upgraded the crossings, for better movement of the trains, which also keeps our trains on schedule. It helps FECR run, and it also helps all of the local governments in the cities where we operate. So again, the track is double tracked. With that, that means you don't have to slow or stop a train to allow another train to pass. There is continued movement, but we work obviously very closely with FECR and with Dispatch Co. to ensure that the trains are consistently moving safely within the corridor.
I asked that question because they anticipate an explosion in freight traffic when the ports get going really full blown.
So if you, Brightline went through a 5-year, or it was actually 5 years, a 5-year environmental impact statement process where the federal government asked us to study the impact of adding the 32 Brightline trains to the corridor, in addition to the ultimate freight scenario, which is about 28 trains. And the infrastructure that you see in place is as a result of that environmental impact study process.
Thank you very much.
Great, thank you so much. Thank you, Ally. I'm going to ask that if we could participate with you, especially when the Boca station opens,
Okay.
if this board could have a tour and really
yeah.
experience that. And I don't, even though most of us have ridden the train, I think it'll be beneficial for us to visit the Boca station and also experience, that level of service that you guys provide.
Sure, we're happy to provide a tour. I'll work with you and the staff on when the appropriate time to schedule that is. Because right
Absolutely.
now it's coming out of the ground.
I'm sure it's a construction site.
Yes, but thank you very much.
I think they ought to give us a ride from West Palm Beach down to Boca, tour both the stations and then bring it back here.
Actually, that's a really great idea. And I think, we'll definitely make a request to TPA. I think it'll be good for us to experience it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So the next item is the long-range transportation plan update. So I invite Connor to the podium.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Connor Campabasso with the Palm Beach TPA, and today I'm going to be giving you a update on the 2050 LRTP. It's been a while since we brought any LRTP items to you all, and we're starting to get into the LRTP season. So we wanted to give you a brief update before we start bringing draft scopes and other items to you all for approval and information items. So this is just a general update, and we'll be, again, working with you through the entire process. So with that, I do want to give you sort of a high level update on, our three core products as a whole. So first, we have the UPWP. You may be familiar with this. You probably just saw a draft of it. I think it was last CAC. So that's a 2-year financial document, and that gets updated every 2 years. We also have the Transportation Improvement Program, which is a 5-year funded projects list, and that gets updated every year. And then finally, we have the LRTP, which is our long-range transportation plan that we update every 5 years. And that's required to be a minimum of 20 years. To synchronize it with our partner agencies, we actually do an additional 5 years. So that's totaling a 25-year plan. We do that for a variety of reasons as well, but one of the main ones is to sync it up with our partners, especially when it comes to the regional transportation plan. And these three documents make up our core products, and these core products are essential for the operations of the TPA, and it also helps us establish our funding mechanisms. So for those of you who are maybe not familiar with what an LRTP is, it helps us map out the future of state and federal transportation investments in our region. It also serves as the foundation for the development of the Transportation Improvement Program. It also reflects the region's goals through a project prioritization, and the financial component that's part of that LRTP guides how the plan can be implemented. So we did just pass a 2045 plan not too long ago, back in the end of 2019. That plan saw, since it was a 25-year plan, a planning horizon of 2045. And in that plan, it defined the priority pedestrian and bicycle corridors. It also established the 561 transit corridors and established performance measures as well as targets, and outlined the different funding programs here at the TPA. So these documents are guided by several different things. One of the main ones is the Code of Federal Requirements, or regulations. I keep forgetting the R. So that guides us. That's kind of the main requirements that we have to develop a long-range transportation plan. In there, it defines that the plan must be a minimum of 20 years, like I mentioned earlier, and updated every 5 years. It has to develop a integrated multimodal system, include operational and management strategies, as well as congestion management processes, assessment of capital investment, transportation and transit enhancements, environmental mitigation, as well as that financial plan that I referenced earlier. In addition to that, we also have the updated FHWA planning emphasis areas, and that includes a variety of different things, including tackling climate change, equity and justice 40, complete streets elements, public involvement, cooperation with the DoD, as well as the Federal Land Management Agency, planning and environmental linkages, as well as data and transportation planning. So all of that together kind of guides us into our next plan, which is going to be the 2050. And we are seeking to answer a variety of different questions, things like what will 2050 populations, employment, and travel look like? What is our vision and how are we going to measure performance in that vision? What our needs and our priorities are for the region? What we want to see travel look like in the future? I would say almost most importantly, how are we going to pay for that? And then also, how are we going to actually implement those projects that we identify? So like I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, this is sort of the very beginning of what we call the LRTP season. So we're just starting out in the procurement phase. Right now, we're in the scoping and the scope of services part. So we are planning on that lasting until probably the end of summer, in which case, and after that, we'll be going into advertisement into the fall of 2022. After which we'll go into the selection of the consultant and the contract start date, which will be in winter 2022, potentially bleeding into the new year. Like I mentioned, you're going to be a key role in the process for this LRTP, for the LRTP process. And with that, you're going to see a variety of different items and updates coming to you. Some of those long-term milestones will include the adoption of the goals, objectives, and measures, which we are seeing, which we'll probably be seeing around summer 2023. The cost feasible plan, which will be in spring of 2024, as well as obviously the final adoption of the document itself. Sort of in parallel, and I referenced it earlier, is going to be the Regional Transportation Plan, or the RTP. That's that document that we work together with our partners in Broward County, as well as the Miami-Dade TPO, to kind of synchronize our long-range transportation planning efforts. And that effort's going on sort of in parallel with these updates. So we actually just got out of the scoping phase of the RTP, and Miami-Dade is going to be leading the procurement. And then towards the end of 2022, going into 2023, we'll be executing the contract with the consultant firm, and then working with them and our partners to develop that plan. With that, again, this was just a general update. I wanted to introduce this item to you because we're going to be coming back in the summer with a draft scope to get your input on that. And then again, for an adoption of that scope after we get your input, incorporate that in. So this, again, just high level presentation, but if you do have any comments or questions for me, I'd be happy to answer them for you.
All right, thank you so much. Are there any member comments at this time?
I don't see any virtual hands raised and no 10 cards up.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much.
Sure thing.
Lastly, our administrative items. Item 4A through 4Cs are information only if there's no staff presentation unless requested by committee members. No? Okay. So are there any public comments on these items at this time?
Sorry, no, Madam Chair.
Okay, so great. Our next CAC meeting is scheduled for May 4th. So at this time, meeting's adjourned. Thank you so much for all being here.